Hi, everyone, and welcome to Signature West Podcast. I'm your host, Sam West from Palm Springs, California. Season number 3, episode number 1. My guest today is Mary Barsaleau, and she's a major component here in the pickleball community in Palm Springs. She's going to help us understand the culture, the birth, the obsession behind the sport. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Sam.
How are you?
Just finished teaching a lesson for a couple hours and got here in time to do this with you, but I was teaching inside in the air conditioning. So that's one way to get through the summer here.
Good, I'm glad. So you retired in 2018, but you retired from teaching. What were you teaching and when did your teaching career start?
I started teaching in 1982 in private schools in Pasadena. I have my California teaching credential in health science, physical education, and 2 master's degrees. I taught at the high school, junior high, middle school, private and public. I retired in 2018 from Tustin Unified, and I moved to the desert for a lot of reasons, but mainly I could afford it, and I'm big into golf and pickleball and being in a really diverse, open community.
So you're also, I believe you taught softball, basketball, volleyball, and cross-country soccer.
As an athletic coach for all those high school level, going to CIF and playoffs. And I also was an athletic director at several schools.
So when you retired here, what was your vision? What did you want to do? And what was your mindset?
Good question. When I was in Tustin in 2014, I ran my first round robin tournament. Pickleball had started right behind the middle school where I was teaching. And Phil Dunmeyer was kind of my mentor there in Tustin. And there was one of the big areas that pickleball got big in Orange County. It's in Tustin. And we started playing with just school district employees, and we started having little events. So I was running round robins since 2014 in Tustin every other month. So when I was out here quite a bit before 2018, just for golf tournaments and friends, and I started running round robins out in the desert at Demuth Park. So my vision was retiring from teaching and running pickleball tournaments, continuing to be an ambassador and promoting pickleball, doing clinics for schools. And at that point, I wasn't as interested in teaching as much as running round robins. So that changed a little bit when I got my certification, when I got my knee replaced. I wanted to be able to be an instructor. And also with COVID, I couldn't run events anymore. So if you can't run a round robin,
right,
then how can we help people and be an ambassador and help them learn how to play? So I wanted to make sure I had the proper certifications. So I took both of those certification programs.
So let's back up. Before you in Palm Springs, you added pickleball to your curriculum between 84 and 2001.
Yeah, in Tustin and in my other schools.
And
in San Diego, in Pasadena, every school I was in, I taught pickleball. Everybody at the teaching workshops loved the sport. We played every summer. It hadn't gotten to tournament level yet. And I didn't start tournaments until 2013. And I think they'd started playing tournaments around 2009, like get to where it's out there playing tournaments rather than just social. And there's other people who know more about the older history besides just when it was created, but we've been teaching it in physical education for quite a while.
So when was it created? What is the history? And because I
about 1965 on Bainbridge Island, the people that created it named it after his dog Pickles, and it was an alternative backdoor game to other things to do. And there's a whole history of pickleball, and Jennifer LaCour's written a book on it, and there's lots of ways to look up the trivia, but it was, number one, it's easy to get good. It's fun and it's social. And a lot of people, it's an equalizer for men and women and for athletes and non-athletes, where you can do things with your family, your grandkids. You can also play husbands and wives, and you can play competitively also. You can be 60, like I'm in my 60s, and you can be competitive with someone in their 20s or 30s. So that's, I think, the draw of why the game is so popular is one of the reasons. There's many reasons.
But it's not really like I grew up in LA until I left recently, and I've never heard of it till I moved here. So when did it?
Good question.
Now,
Now,
where?
it's very much about where you live and whether there's pickleball there. Like if you were in Oceanside, there's pickleball at Melba Bishop. If you're in San Diego, over the line softball is huge, but they don't play anywhere else. So in Venice Beach, paddleball is big, and you see paddleball on the beach. And so you see a lot of that. So it depends on if there are courts and there's a program. Like Simi Valley is a big hotbed of pickleball because some people came and started playing and built a facility. So if there's Utah, Little River, you know, with the Huntsman games and Fall Brawl, they have about 40, 50 courts over there. And it's a big pickleball community. So to answer your question, I think it depends on whether someone has got the cities to build courts so that everyone has access. It can't just be in one club. You wouldn't get this huge widespread passion for it. Also, having it at Indian Wells, having the Nationals there, I think put Palm Springs on the map to where it's.
When did that start?
They're in their third year. They have a 5-year contract, but COVID postponed it. So they've had it 2 times at Indian Wells. And then COVID was going to be the third year. So 2000.
It's fairly new. It's not
17, 18.
So very new. Not like
pretty new to have nationals, but that 5-year contract, yeah, pretty new to have nationals. Yes. There have been senior games for a long time. There have been tournaments. I started in 2013, and I know there were tournaments in like 2009, 2010, but I got into it because a friend of mine from those teaching workshops said, hey, they're playing pickleball and you can go to tournaments. So a lot of athletes from other sports like softball, basketball, triathlon, volleyball are really good at pickleball right away just because, and they were in athletics and they would like to play something competitive that you can get at right away without having to start as like a 10-year-old and be in a club like tennis, you know, or something where you had to start when you're really young to get good at it.
Right. And you became the ambassador, U.S. ambassador in 2014.
I was the ambassador in Long Beach and Tustin. That's where I lived. I was teaching there. So ambassadors are assigned to a city or an area.
Right.
So there's a lot of ambassadors, and what their job is to promote pickleball where they live or where they work.
Right.
So I was living in Long Beach and teaching in Tustin. And so my contribution was running round robin tournaments. And then I was teaching at this school. I did demonstrations at back to school night for the parents and to get the parents to see what the kids were doing. And so that was kind of my way of being an ambassador. And because we had other people that were running sanctioned tournaments and big tournaments. So my niche is round robins.
Right.
And then when I retired out here, I wanted to continue doing that, which I have been until COVID. And my first one now back will be October 3rd.
And when you came to Palm Springs, you became certified. What does that really mean?
I was already an ambassador. I just changed my ambassadorship to Palm Springs.
Okay.
So, and Dean Mangione helped me with that. He was already an existing ambassador. The certification to teach was through PPR. And they were putting out a really big program. That teacher was Sarah Ansberry. She's excellent. It was a rigorous 8-hour program on court where we did every drill, every warm up. Was no watching video, and it was all on court and having to practice teaching, peer teaching, drills. And it was an excellent program. So I had just got my knee replaced and retired, and I went through the training program in the summer 2018, and then it was in September, so fall. And then I also went through the Iptpa certification program.
Which means what?
International Pickleball Professionals. It's Rifkin, Ralph Rabaggio's part of it. It's a different one. Now there's a professional one. I think there's 2 or 3 other ones. I feel like I wanted to do 2 training programs so I could see which one was better. And I'm interested in doing groups and all levels. I'm not interested in mentoring professionals or high level people. I'm better at teaching skills.
And is that when you started doing your clinic? Is that what led to?
The clinics I did for the city of Palm Springs was in December, I think of 2018, 2019. It took a little while to get it on board, but it was through the city. So you're a contract employee. I make sure I do all the paperwork and the certificate and the insurance and all that. And so you're providing a service to the city, like you're their employee. So you get a 70-30 split, and they don't, and it's their facility, and you know, you're on their payroll. You aren't teaching for yourself. So that's when I started. And then I did that for 3 months. And then all the city rec departments had to shut down with COVID. So then I started doing some donation for free clinics for Palm Desert, because they were going to hire me to teach for them. And so I went to Freedom Park and just put things out on Facebook and said, do you want to learn how to play? Because there were very few activities you could do during COVID. Pickleball was one of them. And when they unlocked the courts, there was all these people, and we had masks and distancing, and people wanted to learn. And I felt like as an ambassador, someone needed to help them find something healthy to do.
Right.
So started Freedom Park and then Civic Center Park. And then as soon as they could legally, with the shutdown, hire me to be a contract vendor, Palm Desert hired me. So I'm their employee like I am with Palm Springs.
I met you at your donation clinic in
Civic Center.
Civic Center, that's when we started. And it's been, I didn't know what the story was. I didn't know what the game was. And I fell in love instantly, made great friends. We're still all in touch. We still play. We graduated to some degree. So thank you for doing that. That was just really awesome. So now that you're back, what does that mean? You're back to what? Where are you now with the?
Well, now I'm back to where, depending on the variants and what happens health-wise with, the county, city parks and recs are open for outdoor play. Right now, there's not a mask mandate. I think you have to wait and see how it goes, but there's a huge interest in playing. I am running clinics indoors right now because it's hot. So 3 days a week at Civic Center. Palm Springs finally just opened up again. So teaching it in Palm Springs Thursday mornings, but it's hot. So I think just having a program through the cities is really, that's my niche, and where I want everyone to have access to pickleball. I don't want them to have to join a club or have a private teacher. And so as soon as rec departments, recreation, and they're for everyone, and they're fiscally, they're affordable. They're a price that everyone can go to. So that's kind of what I feel is important. So that's what I do.
So let's talk about the indoor, because I am terrified of the, well, I don't want to fall, because it's a basketball flooring, correct?
It's Civic Center. It's a basketball court. There are many lines painted, multi-use for, like most gyms. They have volleyball lines and basketball lines and pickleball lines. The lines are yellow, so it's a little bit harder to see. However, it is really hot out here in the summer, and it's really nice to have somewhere to go to play. And they're open from 9:30 to 1 for open play. It's only a $5 drop-in. That means it's reasonable and open to the public. You don't have to be in a club, and you don't have to live in Palm Desert. The lessons I do are before the open play, so that if people want to take a drill class, I have beginners one day, advanced beginners another day, intermediate and up another day. Wednesday mornings we have advanced round robin play, so we just finished running a little tournament this morning. And indoor it's faster. The ball does skip. It's a little harder to see, but it's air conditioned, so it's kind of a trade-off.
What about the shoes as opposed to being out?
A good court shoe, a good basketball shoe or volleyball shoe, or a tennis shoe. I haven't seen people slipping. The main thing is they say it's really loud in there because it echoes.
That's true.
And there's 3 courts, so it's really loud. So they may not be able to hear you call the score. And the other one is the ball, they don't see it as well. They don't see inside. 2 years ago, we had 6 courts out at Desert Sports Center. It's a volleyball club, and we were running once a month round robins and drill classes there indoors, 6 courts, but they did not open up pickleball after COVID. So the Civic Center has the most courts air conditioned, and the other places you can play are James O. Jesse, Center in North Palm Springs, they have 2 air-conditioned courts. And then at the community center, they have 2 courts with fans. So there's other indoor places to play if it's too hot. Otherwise, you just have to get up at 5:30 or 6, which a lot of people do, and they play in the morning.
Right, which we do, yeah. Is tennis becoming backseat sport in Palm Springs?
You know, tennis has had a resurgence during COVID also.
Right.
There's more, I don't know if anyone's been watching a lot of that. We have a lot of young, good professional tennis players. And when the United States has good players, there's more interest. Then there's more sponsorship, there's more TV. We have a lot of up and comers in tennis, and that brings more interest. Also, tennis is something you could do during COVID, sort of like pickleball. So they both have grown. There has been some problems at times over the years with tennis being worried that pickleball is taking their courts. So I think it's really important for every community to provide both if there's an interest. Tennis has always been big in the Coachella Valley. It hasn't gone away. It's still big in Long Beach. It's still big in Irvine. There are pockets where tennis is still very, very big and popular. It's just, it became a professional sport with fans instead of a sport. In the 70s, we all played. I played for my high school team. We had 18 courts. Everybody played tennis. So it's gone through a transition from a sport for everyone to a sport for the pros with audiences sitting and watching them. It's not quite the same as it was back when I was in high school and I played in junior college, and I didn't even play when I was young. I wanted to be on a team in high school and they didn't have other sports for girls, so I learned how to play tennis. So I think pickleball, they aren't in competition. There's a lot of tennis pros who are teaching pickleball also and are very successful with both, like Bobby Riggs Center with Steve Dawson and Marcin Rapinski, and Morgan Evans is from tennis. They have both.
But
and there are people that still play both.
But you're not seeing, I mean, like at the Moose Park, for example, the tennis section is this big now and the pickleball section is this big.
I think it depends on where you are. And like, there are places that still have a lot of tennis out here in different clubs. I know in La Quinta, there's places that still have a lot of tennis. And I know, like, I can tell you, I lived in Irvine for a long time when I was in Tustin. The tennis courts are full at night. There's huge youth programs. So it's very much about which city you live in. Is pickleball getting huge everywhere? Yes, it's easier. It's accessible, it's social. Tennis takes a lot of background to get good, to get to a high level. So it takes more time. Pickleball, you can start playing in a day,
So if you want to summarize, if you want to define in one word, what is the culture behind the sport?
Pickleball is social, and it's fun, and it's accessible to all.
It's also competitive.
It meets a lot of needs.
Yeah.
Now I will tell you, yes, it is very competitive, and it does turn many people into 12-year-old boys.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
But there's also some there's a lot of graciousness. There's a lot of sportsmanship. You'll go by a court and you'll hear everyone screaming and laughing.
But why is that? So why you don't find that in tennis so much? Why?
Because tennis became very much about the crowd being quiet and don't disturb. It's about being in a stadium and watching tennis. Because it became more pros and high level, and we're the spectators. And also you don't have as many people out playing out here in the heat, but it depends on the time of year. You have to have access. See, all the high schools used to have 10, 12 courts. Now they've all cut it down to only 6 courts. That's what you need to host a match. Every high school has cut it down to 6 courts. They're just trying to have a team. It's not a sport for all, like I explained in the 70s. The pickleball is, and there's a lot of push to make it become a professional sport, an Olympic sport. And that's not really our topic right now, but I think there's room for both. There is more noise with pickleball. So your community might choose to use a ball that's quieter, or put the pickleball courts farther away from people's backyards or from the tennis courts.
There's also not a pleasure. The noise is part of.
Yes, it's fun to be loud.
I can't imagine playing the game in silence or being like.
No, and I don't think we should have to.
I can't imagine.
But tennis is more like that. Tennis is, they want you to be quiet if you've ever watched pro tennis. So those two things are different.
Very different. Yeah. And the obsession behind the sport for some?
Well, a lot of people don't do other things. And they found something that they could do. And maybe I see a lot of people I played college softball against, college basketball against, people that I trained with. And over the years, they're all playing pickleball now. Athletes are finding something that's organized where they can go be competitive, that they can get good at and be excited about. Whereas it takes a lot of work to be a good golfer. I mean, I golf, but it takes a lot more practice. It takes a lot more work to be that competitive in tennis. So I think our society needs something they can get good at and get a trophy or a medal that you don't have to put all this time into. And you can do it with your husband and wife, your grandkids, or you can go to tournaments, and it's social and fun too. It meets a lot of needs.
It does. It does.
You can be competitive or you can be fun and social, or both. And with COVID, it kind of shut people down and it had a little more cliquey, like your only group.
Right.
But I know that
Okay.
I pulled in some women from all different clubs last March and got them all to meet at Freedom Park. And we had like 20 women round robins. And they said, this is the best thing. Now I'm playing all these different people. So that's one of the kind of things I try to do as an ambassador. So that's how you get better. You play different people.
Right.
To expand your game. So if you want to develop it, you go out and try to find games, and that's harder because people are a little bit more shut down. Like they have their own group, or you can't mix in with us. But I'd say it depends on the courts. I think they're really friendly at Duluth.
Oh,
I think people are welcoming. People are welcoming.
Yeah, there's not an issue with that at all. That's
And I get calls every day about people coming because I'm an ambassador, and they'll say, where should we go to play? And I'll mention all 4 public places, and I'll say, they have a system of how to rotate in. Let me know if you need me to meet you there and introduce you to some people. So that's what ambassadors do. You know, you field
Right.
calls and inquiries, and you help people find courts.
So for the newcomers that want to join you, where can they find you, and where can they go to?
If they
learn
want
the game?
to learn how to play, you mean beginners?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are beginning lessons at Palm Springs at Demuth Park on Thursday mornings at 7 o'clock. You go online through the rec department and you sign up through them. And I think I've posted that flyer on Facebook, but you can get it on the Palm Springs Recreation Department website. This is very reasonable. I think it's a discount if you're a Palm Springs resident. You do have to, if you're in Palm Springs, it is significantly a cheaper price, but anyone is invited.
Okay.
And that's Thursday mornings at 7. The intermediate group meets at 8:30. It's pretty hot right now. I'm gonna figure out what to do with that, but that just started. If you want to come to the Civic Center and it's air conditioned, beginners are on Mondays, intermediate and up is on Fridays. It's at 7:30 in the morning to 9. And then open play is 9:30 to 1. You can just play in the air conditioning
Right.
for a $5 drop-in.
Right.
And in October, I think we'll start doing beginners again, and advanced beginners and intermediate. Round robin tournaments are a great way to meet people, practice with a partner for a tournament, test yourself, or just do something fun.
Yep.
So with the round robins, I do rotating, singles, men's doubles, women's doubles, mixed doubles. You can be there all day. And that's what I was doing since 2014. And now I'm going to start the last one I did was March of 2019. Then COVID, could not run a public event on a public court, and I only do public stuff. So now I'm running my first one October 3rd. So that's a great way to get out there and meet other people.
And where's that going to be at?
That'll be at Freedom Park, and on pickleballtournaments.com is a really good reference for your people to go and see tournaments throughout all of the world.
Right.
Pickleballtournaments.com has a schedule every month, like regionals this next week in Fountain Valley. It'll say Mission Hills has a round robin Halloween. You can look on that calendar and find an event just about every week.
But October 3rd is at Freedom Park.
Yes.
Okay.
It's almost full.
Almost full. Okay.
Yeah.
How many is that? Almost full?
Well, with only 8 courts, I try to limit it to under 100 people because you don't want to wait around.
That's a lot.
Now, when I have 12 courts, like at Civic Center Park at Fritz Burns, then I can have more entries. But you
Right.
don't want to have too many people because then you have a beginner, like a 3-0 having to play against a 3-5.
Right.
And that's hard for people. So the more courts, the more entries you can have.
Right.
So Freedom only has 8 courts, but it's got a beautiful facility with shade and misters and a nice bathroom. And Rancho Ranch has got great courts. Fritz Burns has got great courts. Demuth has 12 courts. So we have a lot of places to play that are open, and they have lights. You can play at night.
Right. Mary, thanks for the info. I mean, I tell you, I love it. I've been obsessed ever since last summer. So for that, I thank you. Make great friends. So for the ones out there that are thinking about doing this, go for it. You got nothing to lose and lots to gain.
Keep your
Mary-
paddle in front.
Yes, for those of us that know what that means. Paddle up, people. All right, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. And again, I say this every week. If you're gonna watch this show, especially on YouTube, please subscribe. It helps me. It helps people like Mary that come on the show to do this for you. So please subscribe. And on that note, stay well, be safe, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody.